So you might have been shooting color film for a while now, but as you know, the price keeps going up every year, especially if you shoot something like Portra 400 or Portra 800. We're looking at insane prices for color film right now. But what if I told you there was a cheaper way to shoot color film that in some cases might even look better than Portra? And that's where cinema film comes in. Now, what is cinema film? It's primarily film meant to be shot for videos. It's used for movies and short films, but you can shoot it in your film camera for stills as well. Now, this video isn't gonna be a step-by-step guide, but more of an intro to letting you know that you can shoot cinema film for photography and a bit of an intro into the process on how to get started with that. And in some cases, shooting cinema film can give you a unique look that can even be better than traditional color film, and you might end up with photos that look like this. Now, when it comes to cinema film, you have some options in the space. Kodak makes a bunch under their Vision3 line. Fuji also makes some. You can sort of pick whichever one you want. I primarily shoot Vision3 film, mostly 250D and 500T. Now, cinema film will come balanced to a certain color space. So if you see a D in the name, it means it's daylight balanced, which means it's going to be great for shooting outdoors in natural light. And if you see a T in the name, it's going to be tungsten balanced, which means it's going to be better for shooting in artificial light. Now, tungsten film can have a blue-green cast if you shoot it in daylight, but if you're scanning the film yourself, you can pretty easily correct the color shift in your editing software. And I'll show you a bit more about how to edit your scans to get rid of that cast a bit later in the video. Once you've picked out what film you want to shoot, you have to actually go out and buy it. Now, it can be kind of tricky trying to source this film. eBay usually is going to be a good option. There's also various photography stores online that will sell cinema film. You can also look into film schools. Oftentimes they will sell something called short ends, which is essentially leftover film from shooting videos. A few things to keep in mind when you are buying cinema film with the intention of shooting it in your photography film camera is that you want to make sure you get the 35mm version, because the film does come in like 16mm and other formats, so you really want to make sure you get the 35mm version of your Kodak Vision3 500T or 250D or whatever stock you chose. Another thing you want to make sure of when you're buying this film is to buy them in 100 feet rolls. You'll see that they're sold primarily in 400 feet rolls. Most bulk rollers can only accept 100 feet of film at a time, so you really want to make sure you're buying 100 feet of the film stock that you want. If you're buying 100 feet of 35mm cinema film, it can run you from around $100 to $150. You can keep an eye on the prices because it fluctuates a lot, but you will see that you can get a lot of rolls out of it, and at the end I'll show you some math that shows you how much cheaper it is than just shooting the same amount in Portra 400 or 800 or even Gold 200. Now, once you buy the film and it's shipped to you, it's going to come in a light-proof container, something like this, and you really want to make sure you do not open this container. The film is light sensitive and you need to roll it into your bulk roller in complete darkness. If you expose the film to light at any point, you're going to ruin it. You're not going to get exposures. Now, other than the roll of film itself, you're going to need to buy a bulk roller. There's many options for this and all of them work kind of the same way. And you will need to buy some reloadable film cartridges. That's just where you're going to roll the film into, and that's actually what's going to go into your film camera. Now, the next step in the process is going to be to take your container of film that you just got and taking your bulk roller, and then in complete darkness, preferably inside a dark bag or a changing bag, to transfer the 100 feet of film from the container to your bulk roller. Now, this has to be done in complete darkness, and you can look up a guide for how to load your bulk roller on YouTube. There's a lot of videos for most bulk roller models, and it's pretty straightforward, but it's a bit scary because you're doing it in the dark and you can't really see what you're doing. But once you do it once, it becomes really easy for the next few times you do it. At this point, you're going to have your bulk roller that's loaded up with film, and you're going to have a little film leader sticking out of it, so you're completely ready to start rolling your film. Now, once you have finished rolling your film, it's going to look something like this. And as you can see, this is basically like any other roll of color film, and it's ready to go in your camera and you're ready to shoot. Now that you've shot your roll of Vision 3 or any other cinema film, you need to get it developed. Cinema film uses a different development process than regular color film, which uses the C41 chemical process, but cinema film uses a different process called ECN2. Cinema film actually has an extra layer on it called the ramjet layer, which needs to be removed before you continue processing it. So there's an extra step in the processing of this film. Now, if you're developing it yourself, you can buy the ECN2 chemicals pretty easily. There's a lot of suppliers who are selling it online, and you can follow a guide on YouTube to go through the process of developing it and drying it. But if you are going to send it to a lab, you need to make sure the lab does ECN2 processing. This is a different process that a lot of labs who do develop color film don't support. So you really need to look around for labs, either locally or a mail-in lab that does ECN2 processing, and then you can take your film there and they'll be able to develop it correctly. Now keep in mind, a lot of labs will cross-process your cinema film in C41 chemicals, but this can lead to certain color shifts. So generally I don't recommend going for that. I would just recommend finding a lab that will actually process your cinema film in the ECN2 process that it's meant for. Now, when it comes to scanning your film, you can just let the lab scan it for you. However, I do recommend that you try scanning it yourself, mostly because cinema film has a lot of flexibility, so you can really push it to get the sort of color that you want out of your film. The look isn't as baked in as in something like Portra 400 or Gold 200. You have a lot of flexibility in the colors that you want. Now you can use whatever process you use for scanning the rest of your film for the cinema film as well. So if you are DSLR scanning, you can go ahead and do that. If you are using a flatbed, you can use that to scan it. If you have a dedicated film scanner, you can also scan using that. I'll show you a brief look into how I scan and process my cinema film and how I invert it and how I color correct it and how I export it for sharing on the internet or for printing. So we are in Lightroom and I use Negative Lab Pro for doing my film inversions, and the process for inverting cinema film is pretty much the same. I have some sample photos here. I have a couple in 250D and a couple in 500D. We'll go through and invert each of these and see how they turn out. Since we're using Negative Lab Pro, the first step is to get the white balance of the edge. And then we can just open up Negative Lab Pro, and I keep everything default for the most part and hit convert. As you can see, it did the inversion. One thing I like to do is to go into the white balance and set it to Cine D because it is daylight balanced cinema film, and you can see it does a really good job. It like keeps the blue in the highlights and the color rendering is really good. You can play around with the settings here, but I like to do all my editing in Lightroom itself, so I hit this make copy checkbox and I will hit apply. And once it makes the copy, it has done the inversion, it has all the color in it, and this is kind of my base for when I would start editing it. But to me, this looks really good, so I'll just move on to the next photo. Here we have another photo. This one is also 250D like the previous one. Let me just do auto white balance for this one because the film edge is a bit too bright here. And then the same process, I just open up Negative Lab Pro, hit convert, and it should just convert it. You see it remembered that I did Cine D, but you can try like the neutral or just the Kodak to see what looks the best to you. I think for this one, I'll just stick to Cine D. I kind of like the warp in the shadows over here. Okay, so this one is a 500T shot outdoors. So we will go ahead and take the white balance of the edge and then open up Negative Lab Pro and just hit convert. And yeah, you can see that even though this is 500T, which is a tungsten balanced film, and we shot it outdoors, it still did a really good job once we set it to the Cine D preset over here for white balance. This looks just like pretty close to daylight balanced film. You can set it to Cine T and then you'll see you kind of get that green blue cast. If I was shooting this indoors, I do prefer the Cine T preset, but if I'm shooting outdoors, I can kind of just set the Cine D preset and just apply the settings there. Okay, so last one here. So this one is also from a roll of 500T, also shot outdoors, and we can get the white balance and just open up Negative Lab Pro, hit convert. Very good, did a pretty good job, and I will make a copy and apply. This one I also use the Cine D preset because it's shot outdoors and it's a bit cool, so I can add a bit of warmth. And there you go, it's really easy to invert cinema film as well. It's basically the same process as inverting C41 color film. You basically just have to select the correct white balance preset in Negative Lab Pro to make sure it looks how you want it to. And these photos I think look really good, just doing a straight inversion with no edits, so you can play around and get whatever look you want. Another cool thing about 500T specifically is that it pushes really well. I have shot 500T at night, pushing it 2 stops, shooting at 2000 ISO, and the images come out really well. So if you're looking for a sort of nighttime or indoor film, 500T can also fill that gap. You have a lot of flexibility. You can push it 1 stop to 1000 ISO or 2 stops to 2000 ISO as well. Now in terms of cost savings, I bought my 100 feet of Kodak Vision3 500T for around $80, and you can get around 18 rolls of 36 frames from a 100 feet roll. The 35mm canisters that I used were around $1.5 or so. So in total for 500T, it's coming out to around $6 USD per roll. For 250D, it was around $120 for a roll of 100 feet. And again, you can get 18 rolls from a 100 feet roll, and I used the same film canisters, so that one came out to around $8 USD per roll. When you compare it to a roll of Portra 400, which goes for around $18 USD these days, you can see that there's a lot of cost savings to be had just by shooting cinema film. I know I've been having a lot of fun just rolling my own film and going out and shooting it and getting it developed and scanning it myself. So I really hope you give cinema film a try, and it's a nice budget-friendly way to shoot color film, especially nowadays when C41 color film keeps getting more and more expensive year over year. I hope you learned something new this video, and I really hope you give this a try. And I'll see you all in the next one.